Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we have been discussing upon the fundamental rights for last few lectures. Okay. And basically in the previous lecture, we had done with the right to equality. Right? We had done with the right to equality. And basically we had seen the 5 articles which comes under it. Like Article 14, an exception to it. Article 15, an exception to it. Article 16, exception to it. Article 17, exception to it. And Article 18, and exceptions to it. Okay. So that is what we had discussed in a day. I hope that you have revised the previous lecture before you have come for this lecture. Okay. So basically in this lecture, we are going to start with the protection of other 6 rights. Okay. So basically there is an Article 19. Okay. Guarantees to all citizens the 6 rights. And what are these rights? The first right is right to freedom of speech and expression. Like if someone wants to express the view and if someone wants to speak about something and giving the speech, then the person is allowed to give the speech and expression. Okay. There is a freedom for it. Thereafter, right to assemble peacefully and without arms. Like if there is some group which wants to be assembled and you can say there is some meeting to be had. Okay. Then the assembling could be done if the assembling is for the peaceable and without arms. It means that it could not be done like the peoples are gathering with having weapons. That is basically prohibited. Thereafter, right to form the associations or unions or cooperative societies. Okay. Right to move freely throughout the territory of India. It means that if you are living in India, okay, and you want to explore the different parts of the country, then you can move freely. Thereafter, right to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India. It means that previously you were living somewhere, then you moved out, and then the place where you reached, you found the place is suitable for you to get settled down. So you having the right to reside or getting settled down on that part. So that's why there is a right and settling right in any part of the territory of India. Right to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. Okay. It means that the person is allowed as per his will to carry out in the profession, to carry out the occupation, to carry out the trade or business according to his will. Okay. So these are the 6 fundamental rights that are promised under the Article 19. Okay. Which is often you can say defined as the right to freedom. Got it? Now, if we talk about the original form of Article 19. Okay. So basically remember, like Article 19 did not contain only the 6 rights, but it contained the 7 rights. Okay. So if we talk about the original form, so originally Article 19 had the 7 rights. But the 7th right, or you can say the seventh fundamental right, okay, which was the right of acquiring, holding, and disposing of property, was basically deleted from the 44th Amendment Act of 1978. Okay, so basically Article 17 provides the freedom to acquire, hold, and dispose any property. And this provision was later deleted in the 1978. So that's why the rights promised by the Article 19 reduced to 6 from 7. So these 6 rights are protected against only state action and not against private individuals. Okay, like suppose if we talk about the right to assemble and right to move and right to reside and settling. Okay, so basically if you are doing this on the public places, you are moving to the public places. Okay, and if you are assembling on the public places, then only you are allowed to do it. Okay, if the place where you're getting assembled, if the place where you were moving, that place is of the private origin, or we could also call it as a private property, then the rights are prohibited. It means that the rights are only provided against the state action and not for the private individuals. These rights are available only to the citizens and not to the shareholders of a company, but not to the, sorry, to the citizens and to the shareholders of the company, but not to foreigners or legal persons like companies or corporations or etc., which are of the foreign nature. Okay, it means that Article 19 is exclusive right. The state can impose reasonable restrictions on the enjoyment of these 6 rights only on the grounds mentioned in the Article 19 itself and not on any other grounds. It means that if we talk about the restrictions part, then only those restrictions could be applied on these 6 promised rights which are mentioned under the Article 19 itself. It means that no outer restrictions applied on 6 rights promised under Article 19. Alright. Thereafter implies that every citizen has the right to express his views, okay, opinions, belief, and convictions freely by word of mouth, writing, printing, picturing, or any other manner. And that's comprise the right to speech, and expression. Okay. And basically, if we want to understand it in the more detailed form, so there is Supreme Court held that the freedom of speech and expressions includes these following: right to propagate one's views as well as views of others. Okay. Freedom of press, sometimes also known as media. Okay. Right of commercial advertisements. Thereafter, right against tapping of telephonic conversations. Okay. Right to telecast, that is government has no monopoly on the electronic media. So private individuals are also allowed. And if we talk about this one, so basically that is done to stop irrational surveillance. Okay. Thereafter, right against Bandh called by the political party organization. Suppose you are living in any area, and in that area, some political party, or you can say you can say any other organizations, they called a Bandh, or you can say close down of the market. But you want to open your shop, you want to run your business. So on that time, you could do it because you have the constitutional right. Thereafter, right to know about the government activities, which is generally done by the right to information. In short, famously known as the RTI, and was introduced in 2006. Okay, sorry, 2005. All right. Thereafter, freedom of silence. It means that you are not only allowed to speak or express, but you are also allowed, if you want to keep yourself silent, you can take it. Thereafter, right against imposition of pre-censorship on a newspaper. Like if we talk about the colonial era, okay, or during the time of British India, then we know that there were so many media houses, okay, but the Britishers had passed so many acts to curtail or put restrictions on the media houses' powers. Okay, like Indian Press Act, Censorship Act, Vernacular Press Act, so many acts were there. Okay, so this thing could not be continued in India. So that's why fundamentally the pre-censorship on a newspaper is prohibited. Okay, thereafter, right to demonstration or picketing, but not right to strike. Like if you want to do the demonstration against the government, if you want to do the picketing of some areas, then you could do it, but only the peacefully. Only peacefully. Violently, you could not take up these areas. All right. Thereafter, if we talk about the restrictions, so the state can impose the reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the freedom of speech and expression on the grounds of sovereignty and integrity of India, security of the state, friendly relations with the foreign state, public order, decency or the morality, contempt of court, defamation, and the incitement to an offense. Okay, like you are allowed to express your views, you are allowed to express your speech, okay, to express your belief, faith, and all. But if you are doing this against the sovereignty of this country, against the integrity of this country, security of this country, and if you are doing this to ruin the friendly relations with the foreign state, if you are doing this to make the public disorder, if you are you can say making the expression against the decency or the morality, if you are contempting the court, if you are spreading the defamation, and if you are showing your incitement to an offense, then there is restrictions, and then it is no longer remain a fundamental right. Got it? That's the thing. So we know that every citizen in this country has the right to assemble peacefully without arms. Okay, if we look at it, so basically this includes the right to hold the public meetings, demonstration, and take out processions. Okay, Like if we talk about the public meeting, suppose you are living in a society and a society had organized the assembly, then you people are allowed to assemble there, but only peacefully. You're not allowed to doing the strikes and other, you can say the things which is not under the category of peace. And even you are demonstrating your arms, your weapons, then this thing is prohibited. Demonstrations you could do, and you could even take out the processions, but not in a striking manner and not with the arms and the ammunitions. Thereafter, this freedom can only be exercised only on a public land, and assembly must be peaceful and unarmed. It means that only the public land you can do it. Okay, suppose besides your colony, if you having some hotel, then the hotel is a private property. Okay, you are not allowed to go there, assemble there, and do what you want to do in your meeting and all. Okay, it means only on the public land you are allowed. Okay, and even in the peaceful manner and unarmed manner. This provision does not protect the violent, disorderly, riotous assemblies, or one that causes breach of public peace, or one that involves arm. So if you are doing any of these things, then you have no protection under this law. This right does not including the right to strike. Remember, many times I have seen people who claim that this is a fundamental right to do the riots, to do the strikes, to do the all these things. No, your fundamental rights is only confined to get assembled peacefully and without arms. If you are doing violence, you are disorderly organizing the assemblies, and even if you are breaching the public peace with having the arms. So basically, you are no longer protected under the Article 19. Okay. If we talk about the state, then the state can impose the reasonable restrictions on the exercise of right of assembly on two grounds. Like first, sovereignty and the integrity of India. Like the people got, you can say, gathered there, and now they have organized the meeting how to break the sovereignty and integrity of this country. Then this is not your fundamental rights. Okay. So if any meeting was held, or you can say if any assembly was held, which agenda is to challenge the sovereignty and the integrity of this country, then this is restricted. Thereafter, another one was public order maintenance, including the maintenance of traffic in the area concerned. It means that if you are doing the assembly, if you are doing the demonstrations and all, then the one thing which you are required to keep in your mind is that the traffic of that area should not be hampered. Okay, if the traffic of that area is getting hampered, then the government could ask you to leave the place with immediate purpose. Okay. Thereafter, under section 144 of the Criminal Procedure Code 1973, section 144 we all know stands for the curfew. Okay, which always you can say impose during extraordinary situations. All right. So the CPC, or the Criminal Procedure Code of 1973, under the section 144 of it, which is the curfew, a magistrate can restrain an assembly, meeting, or procession if there is a risk of obstruction, annoyance, or danger to the human life, health, or safety, or disturbances of public tranquility, also known as public peace, or a riot, or any affray. Okay. Under section 141 of the Indian Penal Code, as assembly of 5 or more persons become unlawful if the object is to resist the execution of any law or legal process. It means that some law or legal process has been passed by the legislatures, and then the persons, at least 5 or more, gather together, and now they are forcing the executive not to take the actions for the process, then that will be defined as an unlawful activity and hence not protected under the provision of Article 19. Thereafter, if they had gathered to forcibly occupy the property of some person, okay, then this is not allowed. Thereafter, if they have gathered to commit any mischief for criminal trespass, then it is prohibited. If they have gathered to force someone to do an illegal act, then this is illegal, and to threaten the government or its official on exercising the lawful powers. Okay, so remember this thing. The state restrictions on two grounds: against the sovereignty of this country along with the integrity. And if the public order, including the traffic of that area, is getting hampered, then the state could put the restrictions on the right to assembly. Whereas CPC or the Criminal Procedure Code 1973, under the section 144, if magistrate finds out that the assembly is having the purpose so that they could, you can say, give rise to the risk of obstruction, annoyance, or danger to the human life, health, or safety, and even disturbance of the public tranquility, right, or an affront, then the magistrate can meetings on such gatherings. Okay, and under the section 141 of the Indian Penal Code, any of these five, you can say, areas, if the assembly of 5 or more members have gathered together for any of these things, then that will be declared as an unlawful. Thereafter, if we talk about the right to form association or unions or the corporate societies, then it is also provided under the Article 19. Okay, and this right basically includes the right to form political parties, companies, partnership firms, societies, clubs, organizations, trade unions, or any body of persons. Okay, not only includes the right to start an association or union, but also to continue with the association or union as such. It means that if you have established some association or union, then you could even administer it or maintain that particular association or union. Okay. Further, it covers the negative right of not to form or join any association or union. Okay. So, if we talk about the restrictions, then again, the reasonable restrictions can be imposed on the exercise of these rights by the state on grounds of sovereignty and integrity of India, public order, and the morality. It means that suppose someone has formed a association or union, but the agenda and motive behind it was to carry out terror activities or insurgent activities, then this is against the public order, morality, and even the integrity of this country. Okay, and if we talk about, suppose any separatist association or the union has been formed, then it is also against the sovereignty and the integrity of this country. So if the association or the union belongs to any of these categories, then these are banned. Thereafter, subject to these restrictions, the citizens have complete liberty to form association or unions for pursuing the lawful objectives and purpose. Okay, it means that if the aim behind forming the association or unions was to persuade lawful objectives and the purposes, then the citizens are allowed and having the complete liberty to form these associations and the unions. However, right to obtain the recognition of this association is not a fundamental right. It means that you are allowed to open the association or the unions, but recognition from government is not a fundamental rights. You could not demand fundamentally that you must be recognized. Okay, this is not allowed. Instead of this, that is totally depend upon the discretion power of the government, whether the government want to recognize your organization or the association or not. Okay, thereafter, the Supreme Court held that the trade unions have no guaranteed right to effective bargaining or right to strike or right to declare a lockout. It means that if the trade unions have been formed under Article 90, then basically there is no guarantee granted to them for their bargaining with the management, for right to strike against the actions of the management, and right to declare a lockout. Okay, this is basically comes under the definition of labor rights. Okay, not under the definition of fundamental rights. And labor rights is basically the legal rights. Okay, and the you can say enforceability of these legal rights particularly dependent upon the situations. While if we talk about the fundamental rights, then they required to be applied at any cost. Okay, and right to strike can be controlled by an appropriate industrial law. As I had told you, like these rights, not the fundamental rights, but these are the legal rights which are generally get enforced by the industrial laws. Okay. All right. So students, basically in this lecture, we have finished till here. In the next lecture, we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.